we are putting the icing on the cake. We are feeling cold, so I'm going to talk about fire. I think it's not loaded yet. But as we wait for the technical team to load the slides, I'd like to say that I'm impressed with the organization. I'm impressed with this team. I'm impressed with this association. And it gives me a lot of hope. It gives me a lot of hope that Ghana is not all lost. And my charge to you, men and women, is that let us commit to creating the change that we need so that in future, our generations will be so proud of us. Okay, as we wait, I want to ask, how many of us have ever seen fire getting out of control before? Fire that has gotten out of control. We all know the usual story that fire is a good servant, but it can also be a real bad master. It is something that we cannot do without. We use it in our homes to do a whole lot of things. We use it for our cooking. We use it for all other beneficial purposes. But sometimes this same thing that gives us value for our lives can get out of control. When it gets out of control, it's as if enemy has visited. A spark of fire can turn a whole country upside down. Similarly, it can also turn a whole organization upside down. Tonight, I would like us to have a conversation around it. I'll keep it less technical so that we have a conversation, a very good conversation around fire and how the situation looks like in Ghana. Unfortunately, we are not getting... Just bear with me. Let's have a minute or 30 seconds. Okay. On fires and fire standards in Ghana, reflections on challenges and opportunities. We know fire occurs rapidly under a self-sustaining mechanism. There's a technical presentation of it, and it requires some amount of instability in the chemical reactions to propagate. But for fire to propagate, we need to have some elements to be in place. We need fuel, we need ignition source, we call it heat, we need oxidation agent, atmospheric oxygen, and then we need mechanisms for chemical reaction. We will talk about that later. And fire presents itself in three basic classes. We have fires that come from wood and paper sources. We have fires that come from gas or petroleum products. And then we have the third class comes from electrical equipment, electrical installations, or electrical sources generally. So in effect, when you have assets such as archives and office furniture, fire that may arise out of them can be classified as class A. And then we have lubes, storage, gas, petroleum tanks, and so on and so forth. That are considered class B. And then we have our powerhouses, which technically we call switchgear, or air conditions. That's a very dangerous equipment that can raise our properties down easily. Data centers. As we talk about technology, we talk about data warehousing systems. All these can be great sources of fires that can raise our commercial or industrial assets down, and they consider class C. Fire engineering is built on two basic models. We have the triangle model and we have the tetrahedron model. The triangle model says that you need heat, you need oxygen, you need fuel to connect for fire to propagate. And when you take any one out of it, the fire will die down. That's the first principle. And the second principle also says that you need heat, you need oxygen, you need fuel, and the fourth component called chain reaction should also be there. That's the chemical properties of the fire. And these two models present different technologies for containing fire. So we have fire technology or suppression technologies that's based on a triangle model, and then we have technologies that are also based on a tetrahedron model. And each of the technology comes with their own merits and demerits. For instance, we all know of foam and water as good suppressants of fire. When you apply foam, what it does is that it covers the surface of the fire so that the fire will not get access to oxygen to propagate. Similarly, when you pour water as a suppressant on fire, what it does is that it works on the heat component and it reduces the heat below the level that it can cause ignition, and the fire will suppress. In recent times, there are also new technologies that act on the chemical reaction that propagate the fire. So that means it works on the second technology. That's the fire tetrahedron concept. And with this one, it doesn't work on the heat, neither does it work on the oxygen, nor the fuel source. But it causes stability in the reactions that propagate the fire until it suppresses one of the other components. One strength of the tetrahedron model is that usually it is able to operate such that it can guarantee human occupancy under suppression. What I mean is that if it is working on the chemical reaction component that is not taking oxygen from the room, so when the agent discharges and human beings are there, it will not, cause any damage to their health. So we have some aerosol suppressions. A good one is statics. That more or less is based on this. And then also, some halon gases also are based on the tetrahedron. Now, what factors do we consider if we want to have efficient fire suppression to protect our organization's assets? Usually, the conversation is around budget. But there are more to other issues than the budget, because fire is such that when you install it, it's very difficult to do away with it. So if you don't consider some key factors and you only focus on the budget, you may spend that money and you see that you don't have value for the money spent on the project. So we look at efficiency. How does it respond, the solution you are buying, how does it respond to actuation? Actuations mean discharge. In case there is fire, how long does it take for the system to respond to the fire? Sometimes you may buy a fire suppression system, there can be fire, it will not respond. So it's one critical thing you need to look at. And then the standards. What protocols govern the installations? Fire is a big engineering system. But in our part of the world, we don't see it like that. Fire engineering is a specialty of engineering. So it follows certain protocols. For instance, if you are buying from the United States, then you know that it's going to follow the National Fire Protection Association Protocol of the United States. If it's in the EU or wherever it is, it also follows their protocol. So you need to find out what standards the solution is following, or what standard will be used to install the solution for you. And then the laboratory that has tested the solution you are buying. The leading one is Underwriters Laboratory. And cost of installation. We install fire for a 10-year life cycle. So sometimes the game is like this. Do I present a very low installation cost so that I get a client on maintenance cost? Or do I start with a higher installation cost and then I reduce the maintenance cost? So you need to also look at that critically. And then the health implications. The health implications of fire. Fire suppressions. Some of the agents are very hazardous to health, especially if they contain HFCs. So when they discharge, it shouldn't have human beings around. So you need to be very particular about that. And these days, as we talk about environmental sustainability, and the HFCs-based products, currently, so there's global conversation around we doing away with HFC-based fire suppression system. Cleanness. When the substance discharges, does it require you to come and clean after the discharge? Or after discharge, it doesn't leave any residue? It's a very key thing that you also need to consider before you invest in fire suppression. And the last one, obviously, becomes our budget. Will you have value for money? Because when you invest in fire, it will take you 10 to 15 years. As I said earlier, there are conversations going on around some of the agents we used to develop fire suppression systems, especially on the HFCs. So in America, for instance, they are trying their best to cut down on those solutions. So by 2030, 2040, HFC-based products will be phased out. So as the years goes by, they are becoming expensive because there is a check on their use. Okay. So what are some of the technical requirements we need to look out for to judge the budget that we are spending on fire? There is no cheap fire suppression anywhere. Fire suppression is always in the average of 5 to 10% of the asset value of what you want to protect. There is nothing cheap. So when you invest in cheap solutions, sometimes you may throw your money away. Because fire is a complex engineering solution. Sometimes we have people who will install fire detection system for us. And they may install it like the way an artisan will fix some here, some there, some there. No, that's not how it is done. It should follow a very strict standard. So when you are investing in the solutions, first, you need to ask for engineering certification of the provider. Find out whether the provider has an engineering certificate. 2, as we said earlier, the technical standards governing the installation. Those of us who belong to the NFPA, we use the NFPA standard. And 3, a lot of people don't do this. You need to also ask for what we call manufacturer's authorization. So as far as we don't manufacture a lot of the products here, we need to get the manufacturer's authorization through the vendor. As we are here in Ghana, the major products that we have in our market usually is the fire extinguishers. They come in either dry chemical or CO2, some are foam, some are water. We have halon gases for automatic system. That's what we popularly call FM200. We have aerosols of all kinds. We have sprinklers that we use to protect high-rise buildings or some engineering facilities. And then we have loss of pressure for machines. So these are the main products that we sell in Ghana. And what are the challenges the fire industry is facing here? One major challenge is we don't have a good relationship among the stakeholders. In advanced system, you install fire suppression to minimize your insurance expense. But in Ghana, we don't have that strong relationship. So it's as if you are spending your money on fire, the insurance man will also come for his or her part of it, and so on and so forth. So that collaboration is weak. And also with construction. Mostly with construction budget, sometimes the edifice will be put up. When we are investing in or spending on concrete, or spending on blocks, iron rods, ceiling, electrical materials, that one, they are core parts of it, so we don't feel it. But the moment fire comes into the story, then all of us will go back and budget. We don't have money for it. But one thing we need to know is that concrete, ceiling, electrical installations, they are all susceptible to fire. And mostly when we are doing the costing, we take away the elements that will protect them for sustainability, and we make it an afterthought. I think it is one thing that we need to actually work on as project management professionals. We have very weak awareness as far as the requirements of fire suppression is concerned. So anytime somebody brings fire suppression, we don't have much knowledge about it. We may misinvest. The choices are also limited because we don't manufacture them here. And the regulatory environment is also not strong. And we don't care about compliance. Who is checking about compliance to standard? We don't usually have that. But there are still opportunities for all of us, because the industry is at its cradle stages, that the opportunity to grow is there. With some investment, with some technical expertise, there will be a lot of changes. Government is running industrialization program. But one key component of it should also be fire protection, because that can put a whole investment into disarray. Sometimes it will mess up the whole system, but it will mess up a critical part. But usually we don't, all these things come as afterthoughts in the whole process. Awareness about fire is increasing gradually, we need to admit. And now there's big opportunity coming from the African Trade Pact that is expanding the market. And also standardization is coming up gradually, especially from International Electrotechnical Committee of Ghana and then from Ghana Standards Authority. As part of our way forward, there's the need for a fire conference to define the fire protection trajectory. And all stakeholders, those of you who are into construction and other sectors that have to do with data warehousing or electrical installations or whatever, we all need to think about it. And we also need to improve stakeholder engagement so that when you invest in fire, it should also have a negative, a reducing effect on your insurance expense and so on. And then they need to highlight the issue of standards and certification. Because if you don't do this, you install some solutions and it will be like you have thrown your money away. We need to work on that. And there's a need to start local production of automatic systems. And some players, we are working seriously towards that so that by the next 3 to 4 years, something great should come out of what we are investing in that line. So in conclusion, we are saying that fire can derail all the successes of investors, be it in the financial sector, be it commercial area, or whatever it is. It can derail the successes of investors if it's not properly addressed. And the loose ends in Ghana is the question of certification and application of standards. That as project management professionals, we want to highlight this point strongly. And the stakeholders need to improve the engagement so that we'll have very good value for our investments. And public education too should spearhead the market development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edmund Ayesu. God bless you, sir. We have something special for you tomorrow. So don't worry at all. You can now take your seat. Thank you. A round of applause.